are we live? All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's City Council workshop. This is the part of our meeting before our council meeting where we have presentations and awards and try to get some executive session items out of the way as well. This morning on our workshop agenda, we have a presentation from Ryan Cannon and I believe a few others for Golf Tourism Solutions with a presentation. We welcome you to come forward.
There we go. What a beautiful day this morning. There's no place else I'd rather be than here with all of you this morning. Mayor Bethune and council members and city staff, it is our privilege to be here. As leaders of our community, you have an awesome responsibility, and we are grateful for your time and attention. My friends and I, we're here today on behalf of the Myrtle Beach area's unique golf associations for a few reasons. Mostly, we hope that you feel warm, informed, and also that you feel special, because you are. We also would like to express our support for the city's downtown redevelopment efforts. We'd like to share background on a very significant milestone that our community is fast approaching. And then lastly, we'd like to extend an invitation to collaborate further on some potential next steps. Forgive me, I'm going to read this next part. Yeah. There we go. I'm going to read this next part because I want to get this right. The city of Myrtle Beach is clearly on the move. It's energizing to know that our fellow residents, businesses, elected leadership, and staff are determined that our city not become just another anywhere USA type of place. Instead, we are choosing to take our past, our traditions, our different opinions, and our strong sense of community to carve out a pathway to lasting progress that's in step with the changing times while paying due respect to those that came before us. I believe that's why so many people love this place. I believe that's why so many people love to visit this place. It's very, very unique. Things like Market Common, the Arts and Innovation District, the International Technology and Aerospace Park, MBDA, Emerge. Our community, the golf community, we see what you have done. We see what you're trying to do. We believe in it, and we believe it's good for our region. So on behalf of our constituents in the golf industry, we'd like to offer you our support. The relationship that this community has with the game of golf is unique in all the world. I've spent my entire professional career in the golf industry, and I know that for a fact. Over the years, this community, the golf milestones, we don't want to do this, but we could monopolize your entire day just touching on those key milestones that have happened in the golf community here. But with that said, we would like to touch on a few of those key milestones this morning. And in doing so, we want this to feel like a story. It's a really good story, but we don't want to make it overly formal. In telling this story, we hope that you'll learn a little bit more about the Myrtle Beach Area Allied Golf Associations, the constituents that we represent, and hopefully that's informative. So like any good story, the place you want to start is at the beginning. And so to do that, to take us back to the beginning of golf in Myrtle Beach, I'm going to invite somebody up, somebody in this community that really doesn't need an introduction. It's somebody that I'm humbled to consider a friend. So without further ado, I'll ask Mr. Gary Shaw to come up.
Thank you, Ryan, and thank you, Council, for giving us a shot at your agenda today, and thank you for all the leadership you've provided, not just lately, but for a long, long time. I can speak with authority about that because I've been here a long, long time. I go back to the days when the land south of here was an Air Force base, and I was stationed there with my wife and family. So I have some roots, and it allows me to talk a little bit today about what history is here that's allowed us to claim the title as Golf Capital of the World. I'll do it with 3 little segments, and I only have 5 or 6 minutes, I understand that. So I'm going to talk about people, events, and attitude. And this will be a story really about when we talk about people, Robert, Jimmy, Buster, Clay, and Cecil. Names familiar to many of you here today, but I'm going to elaborate just a little bit. Robert is Robert White. He was the first president of the PGA of America, kind of a Renaissance man, and he came down here knowing what was going on in Pinehurst and wanted to say, I think Myrtle Beach could be a golf resort. He designed and built a golf course. His design fee was $10.80, and later in his life he was claimed to be one of the richest golf professionals in the business, and we wondered how he did that with those kinds of fees. But he was more than that. He was a visionary. He was a club fitter. He was a player, a teacher, and a club operator. The reason I know some of that about Robert White is that I was the professional at Pine Lakes for a spell, and one of our members was Margaret Hartley. She married the dentist, Dr. Fred Hartley, and her maiden name was White. And I was a young golf pro there, and she came walking in one day, and she said, you do know who my daddy is, don't you? And I said, Miss Haley, I don't think I do. She said, it's Robert White. And I was fresh off a lot of schooling with the PGA where I did recognize the name, so I humbled myself to her. And she gave me a cardboard box of a lot of the minutes of the PGA meetings. He had started the PGA traveling between Chicago and New York to assemble golf pros to say, what can we do about our future as golf pros? There was no association. And it was interesting when I read the minutes, the things that those 16 people back in 1916 about might sound familiar to you today. How can we make more money playing golf? Leap forward to today, and I think our tour players are saying much the same thing. How can we make a little bit more, in some cases a lot more, playing golf? So that's Robert White. He designed it, he was a visionary, and he pretty much set the blueprint for Myrtle Beach. Buster is Buster Bryan, who was a visionary as well as a hotelier. He said, this is going to work. We can bring people in. There's a drive-in phenomenon here. People will drive from the Northeast and the Midwest to play golf in Myrtle Beach, and he built the Caravel Hotel. And one fall, there was a terrible snowstorm in Pinehurst. He called up there to a friend. He said, what are you doing with all your golfers? And they said, well, they're all in the bar drinking. He said, well, I'm going to come get them in a bus. So he sent 3 buses up to Pinehurst, brought them down here. They stayed in the Caravel and the Patricia Hotel. And I think that was one of the ignition points for Golf Capital of the World. Then we all know Clay Britton, hotelier, entrepreneur, and he was, along with Cecil Brandon and a couple other people, the ones who put Golf Holiday together, Myrtle Beach Golf Holiday. That wasn't the first name of the group, but it was a consortium of hotels and golf courses to decide we can work together much more powerfully than we can individually, and that was formed, and that's been the nucleus for growing the game. The last name is Sandy Miles, and if you have relatives who I should be talking about and I'm not, I apologize in advance. There's a long list of people who contributed to the growth of the game and are becoming the golf capital of the world, but time doesn't allow me to touch on them. But Sandy owned Pine Lakes for a while, his family did, and he was a true visionary. He was way ahead of his time, and he built golf into something much bigger than it was when he took over as president of Golf Holiday. And when I was there working for him, he came in one day and he said, how many staff people do you have? And I told him. He said, well, what's the payroll today? I told him. He said, how many golfers do you have out there this afternoon? I said, 6. he said, how are you going to fix that? So he got into twilight golf, and it mesmerized the whole community. Everybody got into twilight golf. So we had players not only in the morning, year-round, but in the afternoon because of a rate reduction. Those are the people. The events that happened were, of course, Robert White designing the golf course, and then Buster Bryan getting the hotels involved. And the United States Air Force had a great role to play in the community back when we were growing. They had a 9-hole golf course that's different from what it is today, thanks to you folks and some others. And then we had the Golf Writers Association of America. That's where the name Jimmy comes in. He was from Philadelphia. He was the first golf professional at the Dunes Club in 1948. And when he came here, he told all the golf writers, who were almost all from Atlanta to New York City and Boston, except for Jim Murray, one of the greatest sports writers of all. He was from Los Angeles. Jimmy invited these people down for 25 years in a row on their way to Augusta to play golf at the Dunes Club and the Surf Club and Pine Lakes. And it lasted forever, and we really developed a great name as a golf resort. Maybe not the golf capital of the world, but due to Jimmy's efforts, plus a very nice guy. Then we had the World Am, started by Golf Holiday and Paul Himmelsbach. They decided that August and September, things were a little slow in Myrtle Beach, so let's bring about 3,000 players in, and we'll split them up, 100 on each of the 30 golf courses, and voila. It was last month, still going on. Coastal Carolina was started. They have a professional golf management school out there. They educate, their classes are around 200. They graduate 45 to 50 per year. People all feed into the golf business. Or Georgetown Tech became a reality. They developed a turf school. And if you didn't go to Horry Georgetown Tech for turf school, you probably were down the list as a candidate for a golf course superintendent in the Carolinas. Senior Tour Championship came, compliments to Commissioner Dean Beeman. And then junior golf was made formalized by a lady named Carolyn Cadone, great amateur player, member at the Dunes Club, a legacy in women's golf. And she allowed us to develop golf much, much before everybody else. The Whispering Pines played an interesting part. And by the way, Whispering Pines today is a jewel, thanks to the city being a good caretaker of Whispering Pines, and an old friend who operates it at the highest possible level, Mr. Smith. So hats off to the council and to Chip Smith for that. If some of the people I mentioned, plus some of the people I didn't mention, were here today or listening from up above somewhere, they would say to us, yeah, you're the golf capital of the world. Somebody might not agree with that. But why don't you validate it? Why don't you remove all doubt whether you're the golf capital of the world? We gave you a blueprint. Now, this would be Buster, Cecil, Clay, Jimmy saying this to us at this point. Now, we gave you a great blueprint. You've taken it on a nice journey. You've taken it in a nice spot. But please don't stop here. There's way more to do. And we think there is way more to do to establish and remove all doubt that we're the golf capital of the world.
So I really like the game of golf, and I could listen to Gary Shaw talk about golf Myrtle Beach. For my appetite for that's endless. Thank you, Gary. This story began in 1927, and you'll see here soon why that's really relevant. And there's so many milestones, some of which Gary had touched on. With the Dunes Club being started in 1948, the opening of the Air Force Base, the first 9 holes at Whispering Pines in 1962. But we are going to take you now to 1969. And you touched briefly on this, but it was one of the moments that's worthy of pointing out, because at that time, there were 10 golf courses and 20 motels that got together and decided and noticed that this place was pretty busy in the summer. But what would happen if we started to package around the golf with a hotel? And that idea, the golf package, that was a novel concept at that time, which is kind of hard to think about right now, but nobody was really doing that. In turn, they got together and they created the world's first golf-centric destination marketing co-op. That, again, was a novel concept. Nobody was doing that. In fact, that book, which we found in our organization, has all the minutes. You can see on the side of the screen there, that's a copy of the very first minutes from the very first meeting in April 1969. Be happy to share it with any of you. That it's the stories and the context in there is remarkable. It's intertwined with the story of this community. That organization today is known as Golf Tourism Solutions. Our mission to this day is that we collectively promote, elevate, and advance golf on the Grand Strand. Now, this mission, it's underpinned by a belief that we believe in the magic of a Myrtle Beach golf experience. That language is very intentional. We're trying to figure out a better way to say that, but we haven't come up with one yet. In fact, I look forward to spending some time with the city's poet laureate, Bo Bryan, see if maybe he can help us. But we don't know how else to say that, but we believe in the magic of a Myrtle Beach golf experience. We pursue this mission with 5 areas of focus: marketing, events, technology, research, and our membership. On the marketing side, this is where Play Golf Myrtle Beach, you'll see that consumer-facing brand. On the event side, we have 11 events every year, the largest of which Gary touched on, the World Am, was in its 41st year this year. We provide technology and research to our membership that help them run their business better. And then, of course, our membership. We are a purpose-driven organization. We have 66 member golf courses stretching to the north from Brunswick County all the way to the south down to Georgetown. There are also 39 travel golf providers, and they all pay membership dues into the organization that allow us to pursue the mission. That structure does not exist anywhere else in the world. It's very, very unique to this community. If we've done our job as well as we can, the Myrtle Beach area is a year-round destination amongst golf-motivated visitors who return frequently, and we improve the quality of life for our residents. That's the vision for this organization. That's what we wake up every day and try to do. So now we're going to move a little bit ahead in time to 1978, another key milestone on the calendar. And to tell us this story, I'm going to invite Mr. Dave Ginevro, who's the current general manager of Barefoot Resort and Golf.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you for allowing me to be here. And Ryan, thank you for having me directly behind a past PGA president to come up here and talk to everyone. I moved here in 2000, March of 2000, from a small one-stop light town in northeast Pennsylvania to pursue a full-time career in the golf industry. And with Myrtle Beach known as the golf capital of the world, I figured what better place to do that than here in Myrtle Beach. I was fortunate to be in since inception to Barefoot, and excited to be not only at Barefoot, but be part of this great community, the golf community that we all love. You know, myself, like thousands of others who've relocated here for similar reasons, take pride in our region and the hard work to maintain this area as a premier destination for golf. I'm here today representing the Myrtle Beach Golf Course Owners Association. I'm a board member on that, of that association, as Ryan said, started in 1978. The association currently represents almost 70 golf courses, focusing on initiatives and ensuring Myrtle Beach remains at the top of our competitors. Our mission, to standardize the region's golf operations. Across the region, meaning we work to create consistency, efficiency, and excellence in course management and guest experiences throughout the destination. Our key areas of focus are development and coordination of policies, special projects, and programs to advance operational initiatives. Just to touch on two noticeable achievements, probably the most impactful projects of the organization was bringing in Dr. Kathy Enns to evaluate our operations and help develop a long-term strategy to continue our success. One of the recommendations, which is probably when we decided to pursue this was the best decision we've made in a long time, was her recommendation to create a custom revenue management system, and it's been a game changer, driving significant growth and sustainability for our member courses. We've also created and managed the largest local card program, the Myrtle Beach Passport, which plays a vital role in filling unsold tee times within 72 hours of play at our golf courses. But equally important, this program is set up for the people living in the area and the large amount of people that have relocated to this area. And it generates over 150,000 rounds a year and almost $7 million in revenue. Its importance has grown alongside with the surge of the new residents drawn for their love of golf. And they didn't just move here for golf, but golf is a big part of their lives once they get here, and we're excited to be part of that. Our vision: assure the quality experience locals and visitors have come to expect on a Grand Strand, continue for generations to come. We, the golf courses, we're competitors on a daily basis, but we work together in unison to make this area a better place, to make sure that the people that are traveling here for a golf destination or relocating to live enjoy their experience when they're here for a short period or when they're here living for a long time. And in closing, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to share more about the Golf Course Owners Association and let you know that together we are committed to keeping Myrtle Beach at the forefront of the golf world and ensuring it remains a destination we can all be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Every great community, every great organization, you need to have a brain, and you also be able to illustrate that you have a heart. And in 2018, the golf community here started to coalesce around creating a heart for the golf community. And to help us share that story is Dennis Nickel, who's the current director of golf at the Dunes Golf and Beach Club.
Good morning.
How are you? My own personal career, I moved to Myrtle Beach in 1996, and my career has been kind of woven throughout all these names. I was the former head professional and club manager at Pine Lakes International, the first golf course here. I've been at now the Dunes Club. I've been at Barefoot Resort, so I've crossed many different areas in this golf industry and met a lot of great people. Cecil Brandon, it's great to be able to serve him as a member over all these years and look at the history and what he brought to the industry as well. So I currently am the president of Project Golf. Project Golf was something that was born on a whiteboard in the old Golf Holiday office, which then became Golf Tourism Solutions. We literally, Bill Golden and myself and a few others, kind of just talking about where we need to be to serve the community. We felt that there was a void there that needed to be filled. So there was, on the whiteboard, we threw up, we need to teach more golf. It was kind of grow the game was the big tagline back then in 2018. How could we grow the game in the community, but also give back? Underserved youth, disabled veterans, there was no area that we weren't going to look into. So it was kind of born out of the idea that, we have all these people moving to Myrtle Beach, but if you had a child that was interested in playing golf, or you were a retiree that just wants to pick up the game, who do you call? We're the golf capital of the world, and there was not a phone number to call. So we wanted to create an organization that gave people the opportunity to reach out, and we could point them in the right direction. We can get them started in golf, kind of pass them off to other instructors or other golf courses in the area, and kind of measure that dynamic and make sure that we were doing what we had to do to grow the game. So it really started out of that idea, and then it's grown into something fantastic now. So basically started in 2018 with an introductory to golf class, which was basically just 25 people, a 6 to 8 week series of lessons. rank beginners. These people didn't know what a pitching wedge was, a driving range ball. They literally had no idea what golf was, and we would get them introduced to that game. And it was going well for the first couple of years, and COVID hit. As we all know, that changed the entire world, changed everything we did, allowed us to rethink our vision and our purpose and our mission. And this is what we've come up with here on the board, that we stepped back and said, you know, the introductory golf classes are great, but we need to do more. We need to take on the veterans. We need to take on the juniors. We really need to serve the community that way. So by hiring Gary Shaw and Angel Diaz, both veterans themselves, that's when, you know, Project Golf really took off. And Gary came on board, got with the PGA of America. We launched a PGA Hope chapter here in Myrtle Beach, which currently, out of the 350 chapters in America, we're the largest and fastest growing PGA Hope chapter. So quite a success story there. So, but with that, we started a 3-pillar attack here. Then was the first pillar was obviously introductory to golf. The second pillar was the veterans through the PGA Hope. And the third pillar, which we've now jumped into in the last year and a half or so, is the underserved youth. We've got to try and, takes a little bit more with the youth to try and tiptoe through that to make sure the transportation's there. How do we work with the schools? How do we work with the different organizations? So we've been working on that pretty hard. So real quick to go through the 3 pillars. We've graduated over 1,000, close to 1,000 people out of the introductory to golf classes. We found that 75% of them were women. We launched a strategic partnership with the LPGA Amateur Association, and they also have the largest chapter now in America in Myrtle Beach, so it's a great success story there. And that's also 6 to 8 week classes that we run for the introductory to golf that within hours they fill up 25 people. The only reason we don't grow faster is we just need more resources and more people to teach the classes. So then we stepped into the underserved youth with the, there is no cost to any of these juniors. We've impacted over 100 youth in the area. We started with the Boys and Girls Club. We also have formed a partnership with the Payne Stewart Foundation, and as far as the youth instruction that they use, and we're using that as well. And we're also working with some solutions for the local YMCA here in the future. So we're trying to tap into as many resources as we can and use our instructors to teach golf to underserved youth. So, and what's great about it is the LPGA Association, with their successes now, they're volunteering to help with the juniors. So we're kind of creating our own ambassadors and volunteers as well. But really the impact that we really feel is strongest is the disabled veterans through the PGA Hope chapter. Again, no cost to the veterans. And we have, now we have 16 local PGA professionals. They're all certified in adaptive golf instruction to be able to teach the veterans. They run a 6-week program as well, and when they graduate, quote unquote graduate, a lot of those veterans come back as ambassadors as well. We also work with Coastal Recovery Center, Nardmore, and Echo House as far as being able to use the game of golf as therapeutic outpatient treatment. And then we finally, also just this past May 9th, the state of South Carolina dedicated May 9th as the PGA Hope Day in South Carolina. So that's going to be, every May 9th will be recognized as PGA Hope Day. So to summarize the 3 pillars that we do, number 1, obviously with the introductory to golf, with the retirees and the beginners, we change their lives. We give them something to look forward to through their golden years. The underserved youth, we're giving them experiences they may never have experienced before, and also hopefully giving them golf for the rest of their life to be able to play. But with the veterans, we're not only changing lives, we're actually literally saving lives. You know, suicide's a big deal, and when you see the veterans on the range hitting balls and giving them a purpose to get out of bed, it really is impactful. So we encourage anybody to come out and help us with those veterans programs as well. But and, you know, just to summarize real quick, as far as Project Golf, on behalf of Project Golf, we thank you and thank the city and any help we can give in the future for this. And we're honored and to be part of the 100th year centennial celebration if we can pull that off. So we appreciate your attention and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Dennis and Dave and Gary, they volunteer their time to do this. Dennis got home at about 1 o'clock this morning. He was at one of his kids at a soccer game. So it's hard to overstate how much they care. So we'll bring it forward to today. And of course, who could forget the inaugural Myrtle Beach Classic earlier this year. I hope the community had a good time with that. It never, ever ceases to amaze me, the power of the game of golf to convene people. It's very, very unique in our culture. So In closing, and to wrap this up, simply put, it's impossible to overstate the impact that golf has had on the Myrtle Beach community. And it continues to have as we go forward in time. As you saw, 2027, we're approaching the 100-year celebration of that. We'd like to formally invite the city of Myrtle Beach to participate in the planning for how we recognize and celebrate that moment. We will capture the attention of the entire golf world that year in a very unique way. In addition, the three organizations that you heard from today that are unique to this community, we're actually physically now located in 3 different buildings. And we'd like to explore perhaps that we can bring those 3 together under one roof and inside the city limits of Myrtle Beach. If you believe that would be beneficial, we'd invite to the opportunity, we'd welcome the opportunity to explore that further. Last thing, it's only fitting that Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, the golf capital of the world, serves as a bright and shining example of how a community celebrates the game of golf, while also carving out a pathway to lasting progress in step with the changing times, while paying due respect to those who came before us. Thank you for all the time this morning. As you go throughout your day, excuse me, we hope that you can find the wisdom and the humility to carry forth your responsibility to the community. It's very, very hard to do, but please know that we're rooting for you. We're on your side and wish you the best. Happy to try to answer any questions that you might have. Otherwise, our presentation concluded. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Council, do you have any questions?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment to make. First of all, thank you for being here. Gary, thank you for being here. I have experienced what these people are doing, both with Project Golf, Project Hope, and Golf Tourism Solutions, with them, working with them. The facility they use right now is up in Barefoot Landing. It's a neat facility, but I have been there. I have seen what they do with veterans. I've seen what they do with youth. And so to my colleagues here, I want to let you know it is one heck of a good program. I personally like to get behind it. As Mr. Shaw will tell you, I can't tell you how many golf clubs I've donated to him to help out so that when veterans come, that they have golf clubs to use. It's a tremendous program. It's something I believe in.
All right, thank you. Gary, I'm just thinking maybe you need to write a book. That's not what I meant. Thank you all for being here today and for the presentation. We appreciate it. That is our only presentation during workshop. We do have 2 executive session items. I don't know that we will have time to get to both of them before the meeting starts at 10, but we're going to try. So with that, I will ask for a motion to go into executive session to discuss acquisition of property in the Arts and Innovation District and to discuss contractual negotiations concerning development of J1 dormitory project at Robert Grissom and Mr. Joe White Boulevard. We will invite Fox Simons, Will Bryan, Brian Tucker, Josh Bruger, Michelle Schumpert, Marla Bell, Meredith Denary, and Amy Newshafer. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made from Mr. Smith, second from Mr. Chestnut. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor? Aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. And we On, there we go.
There we go.
Thank you. And our meeting will begin in 2 minutes. Call this morning's city council meeting to order. We thank you all for being here with us today. We appreciate it very, very much. We would ask if you would kindly silence your cell phones. And if you wish, would you please rise and join council for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Louder this morning.
Please join us in prayer. Father, as we approach our meeting today, we are just so grateful for how you've just taken care of our city, taken care of our area here. We're just grateful for the blessings of life. And Lord, it's just amazing how much you have done for our community, and we are thankful for that. Now, Lord, as we stand here today, and we have to be reminded of the folks that have suffered so much, Lord, from the past two hurricanes in western North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia and other areas there, and then in the state of Florida, Georgia. Just so many people right now, Lord, even after the time that's passed from these hurricanes, that they're still struggling just to have the basic things that we enjoy so much here in our area. And Lord, we just lift them up in prayer, Lord, and ask for you to give them strength and courage and to keep perseverance in everything that they're going through right now. Now, Lord, as we stand here today and sit here today in our meeting, we ask that you be in our presence, Lord, and that everything we do is always in harmony, and that every decision, everything is talked about, is what we believe will be the best for the city of Myrtle Beach and for the business community and the citizens of Myrtle Beach. And all these things we ask in your name, Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Mike.
Yes, ma'am.
I asked Councilman Louder if he would also sing the national anthem this morning,
He can do it.
and he declined.
He can do it.
So if that's something you would like in the future, please email me and let me know.
Thank you so much, man.
May I please have a motion to approve today's meeting agenda?
Motion approved.
Okay, I heard Mr. Chestnut, and I believe I heard Mr. Smith. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. May I have a motion for the approval of our meeting minutes from October 8th, 2024?
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Dr. Connor, second from Mr. Smith. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. All right, first up, we have a proclamation declaring November 1st as Extra Mile Day. And Meredith is going to come tell us all about that.
All right, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
This one's just me today. They are not here to accept this proclamation. We'll be sending it off, but I will read it out loud for everybody. Extra Mile Day, November 1st, 2024. Whereas Extra Mile Day is recognized nationally on November 1st to celebrate the capacity we each have to create positive change in ourselves, our families, our organizations, and our communities when we go the extra mile. And whereas the citizens of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, individually and collectively go the extra mile in volunteerism, service, and personal effort on behalf of our community, and their commitment is welcomed wholeheartedly. And whereas, in recognition of our residents' efforts, the City of Myrtle Beach celebrates the many individuals and organizations within this community who go the extra mile each day to make a difference. And whereas Extra Mile America has more than 500 Extra Mile cities, and Myrtle Beach is proud to be one of the communities supporting Extra Mile Day on November 1st. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Myrtle Beach hereby proclaims November 1st, 2024 as Extra Mile Day in recognition of the individual and collective efforts to make Myrtle Beach a better place to live, and further encourages residents to take time this day and every day to go the extra mile in their own lives and in the lives of others. Signed and sealed this 22nd day of October.
All right, thank you, Meredith. And next, we have Native American Heritage Month, and we are very honored to have Acting Chief Cheryl Kale here with us.
Yes, of the Waccamaw Indian people, and thank you for being here today. All right, and I think this is the first time we have done this one, so here we go. Native American Indian Heritage Month, November 2024. Whereas National American Indian Heritage Month celebrates and recognizes the accomplishments and contributions of the indigenous people who are the original inhabitants of the United States. And whereas National American Indian Heritage Month originated in 1986 when Congress passed a law requesting the president to proclaim the week of November 23rd through 30th, 1986 as American Indian Week. And whereas President Ronald Reagan issued a presidential proclamation in November 1986 proclaiming the first American Indian Week. And whereas both law and proclamation recognize the American Indians as the first inhabitants of the lands that now constitute the United States, as well as making mention of their contributions to American society. And whereas in 1990, Congress chose the month of November to recognize National American Indian Heritage Month, which is the traditional harvest season and a time of thanksgiving and celebration for the American Indians. And whereas as we celebrate Native American heritage, we extend our gratitude for their bravery and service in defending our nation for more than 200 years. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the City of Myrtle Beach is proud of our Native American heritage and encourages residents and businesses to celebrate the contributions of American Indians and learn more about their cultures. Signed and sealed this 22nd day of October.
So I'd like to thank Mayor Bethune and the City Council of Myrtle Beach for this honor in receiving the proclamation. As you all know, the Waccamaw Indian people inhabited the lands of what we call Grand Strand, Horry County, Georgetown County, parts of Marion County. And 300 years ago, as settlement started to expand from the Low Country, many of the colonists came and received grants of land. At that present time, there was active trade that occurred between the settlers and the indigenous people inhabiting, and those were my ancestors. And that continued on, and that relationship continued throughout the couple hundred years prior to the early 1900s and our settlement, actually 1800s, our settlement was established in Aner, in Dog Bluff, called the Demery Settlement, and that has remained an active community. It is where our tribal lands are, our tribal office. We celebrate annually. This will be our 32nd powwow celebration this year, the first weekend of November, so sometimes it falls right on the 2nd and 3rd or whatever date that is. So we'd like to invite folks in Myrtle Beach to come out to learn about our culture, to learn about our history, and to recognize that we are still here, and we have plans for the future to better engage with our community rather than being somewhat isolated as we have in the past. Today I have Dr. Carolyn Dillion from Coastal Carolina University. She's also a tribal member, and she has been instrumental in implementing some of the projects. We have a past, present, future museum exhibit with Horry County, and we just in April opened an interpretive trail on our tribal grounds. So I'd love for any of the council members or anybody in the community to come out. It is open to the public, and we definitely would love to be able to share more of our culture and history. And I'd like to thank you again for the honor of receiving the proclamation and recognition of November as Native American Heritage Month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and we'll have our public information update.
Here's your Myrtle Beach Communications update. The 8th Annual Jazz Festival celebrated the city's rich jazz history in front of Charlie's Place over the weekend. Great artists visited Myrtle Beach for a great time. SOS Care hosted the annual Guns N' Hoses charity softball game. Myrtle Beach Fire and Police departments competed along with other departments across Horry and Georgetown counties for a good cause. Myrtle Beach Fire made it to the championship game, but unfortunately, Horry County Police squeezed the win. SCDOT started the Mr. Joe White Avenue paving project Sunday night. SCDOT says crews will work nightly between 6 and 6 in the morning. Starting at Chester Street, they'll pave to Highway 17 bypass. The project should be complete in about 3 weeks. Pile driving for the ocean outfall continues at 24th Avenue North. A section of beach, only as wide as the beach access, is closed until early next year. Tomorrow, Bob Gray kicks off the next Through the Lens of Time history series at 2 in the afternoon at Chapin Memorial Library. Thursday, 9th Avenue North will shut down at 3 in the afternoon for the kids to trick-or-treat at the businesses. They'll have a Halloween parade to Nance Plaza at 5 with True Soul kicking off the Nights at Nance Spooktacular at 5:30. The concert series finale goes until 8:30. Friday, PRST hosts Fall Fling at the field next to Crabtree Memorial Gym. From 5 to 8, there will be games, hay rides, a petting zoo, face painting, entertainment, food, vendors, and more. Bring your lawn chair to watch the outdoor showing of It's a Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown when the sun sets. Next weekend, Jeep Jam returns to the old Myrtle Square Mall site Friday through Sunday. The rescheduled I Love Seafood Fest is at Burroughs and Chapin Pavilion Place from 3 to 11, Saturday only. And Jerk Fest is along Broadway Street from 11 to 9, Sunday only. Last but not least, a big thanks to the 8 Myrtle Beach Public Works members who worked in Anderson for 2 straight weeks to clear roads and help get people there back on their feet. They came home Friday. Don't forget to stay up to date with city news on our Facebook page and on the city's YouTube channel, Myrtle Beach City Gov.
All right, thank you. And I'm going to add one more thing to this, even though it's not on the agenda. And I apologize if this makes some people uncomfortable, but it's our last meeting in October, and it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And that is something that, for me personally, I make sure that I get a mammogram every year on my birthday. It's a gift I give myself. But it's not only important for women of all ages, it's also important for men. So I just want to encourage everyone, if you're not up to date on your screenings, please make that happen. And at this time, I will ask if we have any non-agenda items from the public.
Mayor, 3 people signed up, but they're all an agenda item.
Okay, so we will wait until we get to that agenda item. And we will move on to today's consent agenda.
Yes, Mayor and City Council. Excuse me. For this morning's consent agenda, you have 4 items for consideration. The first is second reading of ordinance 2024-63 to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Myrtle Beach, Appendix A, zoning section 1805, Booker T. Washington Neighborhood Overlay Zone, to add new section 1805D, allowing changeable electronic variable message sign, CEVMS, for religious establishments. There's been no changes since first reading on that item. The second item is motion 2024 dash, my eyes are failing me, I think that's 84. To authorize the city to apply for a grant of $1,500,000 from the South Carolina Rural Infrastructure Authority State Grant Program for the purpose of relocating and upgrading the sewer pump station at 24th Avenue North. The match for that is included in the CIP program. We have to relocate the sewer pump to accommodate the ocean outfall that's going in on that location. The third item is motion 2024-85 to authorize the city to apply for a $33,294 Edward Byrne JAG grant from the federal government to purchase 50 hazmat gas masks for the police department. And the final item is motion 2024-86 to accept a grant from Horry County First Steps for School Readiness Local Partnership in the amount of $8,900 to continue the outdoor story walk program. We have those at 3 locations. They are at Grand Park, Food Trail Park, and Bob Bell Path, which is next to the North Bark Park, and this money will be used to expand those.
Okay, thank you. May I please have a motion to approve today's consent agenda?
Motion approved.
Motion from Ms. Hatley, second from Mr. Chestnut. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. The first item on our regular agenda is the second reading of ordinance 2024-57.
Second reading of ordinance 2024-57, a supplemental ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of not exceeding $81 million aggregate principal amount limited obligation bonds in 2 series of the City of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, for the purposes of defraying the cost of renovations to the city's convention center, improvements to the Downtown Arts and Innovation District, and refinancing certain indebtedness of the city, prescribing the form and details of such bonds, providing for the disposition of the proceeds thereof and other matters relating thereto.
Yes, there's been no changes since first reading on this. This bond will cover 3 things. First, $40 million will go to defease older debt issuance for lower interest rates. $20 million will go towards the convention center for improvements to the glass facade. As we talked about at first reading, if there's any money left over with that $20 million, it will stay in the convention center for further improvements. The third item is $16.5 million to continue the downtown infrastructure. There's been no changes, as I said.
Okay, and just to update everyone on this, including especially the public, what is being used to pay for this debt, and what are the projects in the A&I district, and does it affect any neighborhoods?
Hospitality fee is going to pay for the debt. It will impact a lot of the neighborhoods in the Weatherswash community with water, sewer, stormwater, streetscape, sidewalks, bike lanes. Michelle, what am I missing? Parking. What was the other question? Was that
Just
it?
what all it included. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, may I please have a motion to approve the second reading of ordinance 2024-57?
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion made for Mr. Chestnut, second for Mr. Smith. Any discussion from council?
Ms. Mayor, I realize what this $81 million bond is for, and I understand about part of this $81 million is for the Arts and Innovative District, and I support what's going on there 100%, but I can just have trouble with the fact that we're putting debt on the convention center for something taking place in the downtown, and that's my real issue with the bond itself.
Okay, thank you. Michelle, can you explain that this debt, is it tied to the convention center? Let's get some clarification for all of us.
Certainly. The only debt tied to the convention center is the 20 million. We are doing this in one series. However, we will keep separate records on each one. The only thing that ties these two together is the funding source, what we will be paying for with. The money will not be commingled in the projects any whatsoever. 20 million will be allocated to the convention center and 16.5 million will be allocated to the downtown infrastructure.
But at the same time, all of this is together with existing bonds that we're just adding to existing bonds from the convention center. Is that correct?
They're each a separate series, but yes, we do have, I think it was 7 million outstanding. I can't remember, but it was something like that.
Thank you. Any other discussion from council?
I have a question about the Arts and Innovation District part of this, the 16.5, especially around infrastructure and that type of thing. And I need some clarity on this. I went through budget books for the last couple of years, and it seemed to me that a lot of what we're talking about doing, that money has already been allocated or is potentially being allocated. And then looking at it a little bit closer, it really looks like in terms of infrastructure, what's going to happen here, it really has to do with the realignment of 501. And I'm wondering if we're doing that because of the infrastructure that we need to dig up and replace the old infrastructure. Is that something that South Carolina DOT has refused to pay for? It just seems to me that this money is more targeted towards the 501 realignment than any really arts and innovation improvements.
And I understand that. I think there is an opportunity to sort of see how these things sort of cross paths, and the projects are absolutely integrated to the degree where we've had to coordinate with SCDOT on when our portion of the project is done, when their portion of the project is done. All of the funds referenced in the bond issuance are specific to our portion of the streetscaping and the infrastructure for our street. So this is not necessarily, none of these funds will necessarily be used by SCDOT in the realignment of 501.
And it is not because DOT refused to pay their portion of anything in city limits?
No. We are essentially piggybacking on SCDOT, or they're piggybacking on our efforts. You can look at it either way, but the two projects have to be very closely tied together so that we're not undoing something they've just done, and they're not undoing something we've just done. It has been a very meticulous planning exercise by staff to make sure that it's a coordinated effort. But our money is paying for our project, their money is paying for their project.
Which I would suspect if we're doing it in conjunction with the project that SCDOT, that in the long run, we're saving money by doing that.
Yes, in the sense that, in the sense that we're not having to undo and they're not.
Right.
Brian, is this infrastructure improvements going to help with the flooding on 501 there in Balsam Street and up in that area?
Yes, sir. I would argue that some of the work we've already done has the stormwater facilities that have been built and are currently being built. So if you now go, we're now digging the pond at 8th and Alder and Balsam. So that's the second pond in the series there. We finished the pond at Shelley Park. That creates additional capacity for that problematic area. the pond across on the north side of 501 will be the other piece of that puzzle. And so, yeah, this is a significant help to the flooding issues we've had in that area.
Thank you.
And if I could, just for our newer council members, these discussions with DOT go back several years ago, and trying to coordinate the work that was being done with 501 with the work that we have to do downtown, so that we're not inconveniencing our residents twice. All of the road work is being done together. So that was part of it. Any other questions for Brian? Okay, thank you. Do we have any discussion from the public?
Good morning.
Morning.
Alex Vogel, city resident. Fox, I believe you mentioned this is going to be paid for through hospitality taxes?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that brings up a question that's not related just to this ordinance, but in general, what is the safety net that we have in place that if some catastrophe was to hit and those hospitality funds didn't reach what they expected to be? Could you address that for us?
Michelle will be happy to address that.
Absolutely. We are sure to maintain reserves adequate to cover any shortfall in the revenue. And when we go into the next budget season, and when I talk to you in the next month or so about our financial performance for FY24, we're going to talk about those reserves. But that's one of the things that we're always sure to maintain, are reserves enough to cover anything should there be a disaster in the hospitality tax. We look at what our debt service and our operating needs are, and we make sure that we're in a good place when we create the budget every year.
Michelle, aren't our reserves, correct me if I'm wrong, actually higher than what we're required to have?
In hospitality, absolutely. With this bond, I think it's 7.5 times coverage. So, you know, we are well covered and situated to handle anything that should arise.
Does that help, Alex? Okay, thank you.
And I'd just like to point out that by pledging hospitality bonds, we're not pledging the full faith and credit of the city of Myrtle Beach. We're pledging hospitality tax, and that's it. And if there is no hospitality tax, it doesn't fall on the homeowners to pay that bond off.
Thank you.
If I could add to that, it's been many years ago, but when Hurricane Hugo came through Myrtle Beach, we had basically a same situation where our hospitality fees were affected by the hurricane. And the city of Myrtle Beach operation and everything about our hospitality community was affected by that hurricane. And the same reserve money that Michelle just got through speaking about is the same reserve money that will see us through that we have today. So I just wanted to point that out.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any discussion from the public? Other discussion? Okay, and I will ask for a vote on this by a show of hands, so I'll ask all those in favor. Please signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Second reading of ordinance 2024-59.
Second reading of ordinance 2024-59 to authorize the city manager to execute extension of campground property lease and assignment of lease to related entity and to amend purchase and sale agreement.
This ordinance amends the Lakewood campground lease to extend the lease to extend the lease term another 5 years and to assign the lease rights to the campground operator. There have been no changes since first reading.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Smith, second from Mr. Chestnut. Any discussion from council? Okay, any discussion from the public? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Second reading of ordinance 2024-60.
Second reading of ordinance 2024-60 to amend the Market Common Master Plan to replace plans for a hotel at the corner of Faro Parkway and Phyllis Boulevard with plans for 192 residential units, maximum 3,500 square feet of commercial space and related amenities.
Good morning.
Good morning.
There have been no changes since first reading. This is a project along Phyllis Boulevard between Farrell Parkway and Howard Avenue. It consists of 192 residential units made up of cottages and townhomes with a drive-through coffee shop at the corner of Phyllis and Howard that has a maximum of 3,500 square feet. Again, there's been no changes since first reading, and the applicant is here if you have any questions of them, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have for me.
All right, let's get a motion on the table, and then we will discuss. May I please have a motion to approve the second reading of ordinance 2024-60?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made for Mr. Smith, second for Mr. Chestnut. Any discussion from council?
I have a couple of questions for Kelly, and Kelly, I asked him the last time. I just, to get, be sure that I'm really kind of clear on this. One of them has to do with the statement that staff came up with, that the original intention of the Market Common District, that one thing that was not going to be allowed would be drive-through restaurants. Yet in this particular plan, we have one. So my question is, in discussing this internally within Planning and Zoning Department, and then any presentations specifically to our Planning Commission, was the fact that the original intent was not to have drive-through restaurants, was that discussed with them? Were they aware of it in making their decisions and deliberations?
Yes, sir.
Okay. It's also my understanding that the EPA regulations are going to prohibit the parcel from being subdivided in any form or fashion. Does that remain the same?
Yes.
Thank you.
Kelly, who owns this property?
Who owns it? I believe it's Luke MB.
Okay, it's not the city of Myrtle Beach.
Correct.
It's a private property owner.
Yes.
So this change is not someone developing the city of Myrtle Beach's land, it's developing their own private property, is that correct?
That is correct.
I want to ask.
In order to do so, they have to bring it into the district, is that correct?
It's
The
already
way
in-
it's set up.
No, sir, it's already in the
It's
district.
already in, okay.
Yes.
Kelly, the property Mr. McClure is concerned about with the EPA, that is not in city limits, correct?
It is in the city
It
limits.
is?
Yes.
I thought that was the county parcel.
The county owns the parcel, but it
Okay.
is in the city
The
limits.
county does own that parcel. Okay. Anything else from council? Any discussion from the public? And Jen, who you said people signed up, let's start with people who signed up first, please. We'll go in order, and then if anyone else would like to speak, we will hear you.
First name is John.
And we would ask when you come forward, for the record, if you would please state your full name and your address.
Yep.
My name is John D'Alessandro. My address is 818 Rosa Circle. I'd like to thank the council for having this opportunity to address them today. First and foremost, I want everybody to know that I am not against further development in Market Common. It was abundantly clear when we purchased the house there that there were more pieces to be developed. It was an expectation, I believe, on every homeowner who bought there. I also want the council to know that I know a little bit about the difficulty in growing a vibrant community. I spent almost a decade on the planning board in my town. I've worked with a lot of developers like HomeFed, some good, some bad. I've also spent a lot of time looking into the new urbanist concept that Market Common is intended to be. When the original master plan was put together, the parameters were set to achieve that unique live, work, play type of community. Unfortunately, every time you amend the master plan, you tend to get away from that vision. What I'm here today to talk about is the current master plan, the current version, has on that parcel the expectation of a hotel. I've come to learn that there is some interest in developing a hotel on that parcel. So I think to fully execute your responsibility as the representatives of the community, you have to explore all the options on the current master plan before you change it to something else. You have no legal or moral obligation to cede to the developer's desires or the developer's timeline, but you do have an elected responsibility to cede to the concerns and desires of the community. I hope you take seriously, Myrtle Beach is a wonderful place to live, a growing, vibrant community. And a lot of that is due to the fact that you have a lot of different components that make up the city of Myrtle Beach, Market Common being one of those unique components. It's easy for governmental bodies to pass proclamations thanking people. Well, you passed a proclamation today, go the extra mile. As a resident of the city of Myrtle Beach, I'm asking you, the council members, to go the extra mile. Don't just put any piece in that puzzle to complete it. Put the right piece. Again, you don't have to work on the timeline of the developer. If you vet other opportunities and they prove not to be feasible, fine. Then the community understands why you went in a certain direction. But right now, to change that master plan, just because it makes good business sense for a developer and not necessarily good community sense, in my opinion, would be shirking your responsibilities as our elected representatives. Again, thank you for allowing me to address the council.
Thank you very much. Okay, can we please have some order? Thank you.
John Bush.
My name is John Bush. I live at 1675 Essex Way. Mr. D'Alessandro said most of what I would do more eloquently than I can, so I'll keep my additional comment very brief. As I've listened to them wrangle with traffic, the one piece that's never come up is the concept of actually using Howard as an additional way out of the community. Howard goes down to Howard Parkway and then goes on to Shetland and then on to, potentially on to Nash. There's no plan to do any kind of realignment, and that would be a big help towards dealing with traffic on several platforms. And that's really all I have to add.
Thank you, sir.
Buddy Lindsay.
Good morning.
My name is Buddy Lindsay. I am a lawyer. I have practiced law in this city for 49 years. Next year, I hope it's going to be my last. I'm trying to shoot for 50. I love this city. I have been here that long because I love it. And I just would ask today that we slow down a little bit. The land on Phyllis and Farrow is the last developable land in Market Common. Once it's gone, people. We might regret doing it later or whatever, but it's the only chance that we have to make a difference. Almost exactly 7 years ago, I received a call from Home Fed. Mr. Penner and others stay at my hotel on the Hampton Inn often. We got to know each other. They said, "Buddy, would you please build a hotel out on this property?" I said, "Well, it's probably not going to make any money, but I think you do need a hotel out there, and I'll be glad to do it." 6 months later, could have been longer. I got a call from Mr. Penner and his partner saying, oh, buddy, we're not going to be able to do that hotel. I said, I beg your pardon. He says, there are wells out there that we didn't know. And when we did the survey, we can't do it. It's as simple as that. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to tell you how many thousands of dollars I spent in preparation for the hotel. I don't want to say it broke my heart. Business is business, and I understand that. I'd like to mention one more thing, too. I don't know if any of you have ever been to Rosemary Beach. Anybody been to Rosemary Beach in Florida? It was also developed by the same developer. A friend of mine told me about it. Ed Shelley, a radiologist in town. He said, buddy, you have got to go check this thing out. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, it's a lot like Market Common, but it has a hotel in it. I wish that you could go and see it because it is a very nice hotel in a very nice little community that is very similar to Market Common. Why not do something like that? Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Lindsay. Appreciate you for being here. Okay. Is there any other public comment?
Good morning. My name's William McFarlane. I live at 1199 Prescott Circle, Myrtle Beach. As Buddy said earlier, it's probably one of the last parcels to be developed in Market Common, and we have a chance to do it right. I support the development. I know it's coming. I knew that when I moved to the area, that this land would all be developed and what it would become and the potential that it has. And putting 192 small, highly density rental properties on that piece of property, I think is one of the worst things that could be done with that piece of property. From the standpoint, nothing against rentals, I understand the need for that type of housing, and when people are in situations where they need that. I've been in that situation where I needed to rent for a year or so, but that's just wrong for that area. When you look at renters don't maintain the property to the level that an owner does. They just don't do it. And when you look at the parking situation, the number of cars, and if there's children in that area, where they're going to play, where are they going to go? They're going to go into the commercial district. They're going to hang out there, and they're going to cause problems. We're going to have people that drive on the roads that have no vested interest in the community. They're not going to participate in the community. They're not going to volunteer. They're not going to volunteer in the schools. They're not going to volunteer on city committees. They're not going to volunteer in our local churches. They're not going to volunteer in the food banks. They're not going to contribute to the community. The rental part is just not good for that area. I understand the need for rentals, but to put it on that property, and I'll ask you this, if they came here with a proposal to put that in Grand Dunes, would you approve it? Would you say, yes, this is great, let's put it right here in Grand Dunes? If you wouldn't approve that, then why are you approving it in Market Common? There's other opportunities to put rental homes in other places, and there's quite a bit of rental property in Market Common right now. There's another big development going on right next to Publix. It's just wrong for that area. It's not the right thing. And the people that are going to rent those homes are not going to spend their money in the commercial area of Market Common. I don't believe that's true. And I also question who owns the property. The response was, I believe. What's the fact? I don't care what you believe. I want to know the fact. And the last thing I have, is it a requirement not to subdivide that property, or is it a request? And I heard both. So before you vote on this thing, I hope you really understand the facts of it. Who owns it, and is it a requirement not to subdivide it? Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Please hold your applause. This is a council meeting. Thank you.
Saying that renters will not contribute to the community is unfounded and just plain wrong.
Hello, council. My name is Raymond Adams. I live in Market Common. I live in Sweetgrass Square, and I've been there for 9 years. None of you live in Market Common. We do not have a city council representative living in Market Common.
Yes, you do.
You
Not
have
live in
all of
Market
us.
Commons, but you have a city council representative for Market Commons.
Well,
That's all seven
I
of
understand the
us.
concept that everyone represents Market Common.
Yes, sir. All seven
And
of
everyone
us.
represents all of the city. Will a vote today be an example of when the people in power are not listening to the people they serve? The prior spokesman said the same thing I'm going to say. 25% of the population basically lives in Market Common. 25% of the registered voters of Myrtle Beach live in Market Common. Why don't we have a say in Market Common about what's built there? Why does the council know best what's for Market Common? We have an airport dividing us from the other parts of the city. This is our last large area to be developed. And I think it's wrong for the city council not to listen to the residents. Now, 2 members, at least of this city council, attended a public meeting on September 5th at Robert Reed. There were a lot of upset people there. The meeting actually was a disaster. Maybe the presentation wasn't correct. I think it probably was not correct. But regardless, that is the general feeling in Market Common. There is not support for this project. Now, I have been a supporter for the project, believe it or not, all along. I spoke at the Planning Commission meetings in '23. I spoke at the Planning Commissions this year. I asked the Planning Commission for changes. Some changes were made. I speak for more than just myself. And in '23, I had not known one person supporting the project. In '24, I do know one person supports the project, but only one. So please, listen to us. But if you're not going to listen to us and you support it anyway, then please do this. I ask for myself and for others for the project to have multi-use sidewalks on Howard and on Phyllis. We have one on Fair Parkway. Thankfully, the Planning Commission got us one on Phyllis as a condition for their approval of the project. I ask also to get the entrance off of Fair Parkway for the coffee shop. Fortunately, the Planning Commission helped get that done. We thank them for that. I also asked to look at the parking, but I think Planning and Zoning kind of threw me under the bus on that one because the ordinances don't really apply in the situation we have in Market Common. In Sweetgrass Square, we have 3 parking spaces per resident. So I'm going to ask this. Get the dog park back into the project, get a multi-use sidewalk on Howard like HomeFed told us would be there at the HOA meetings. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, anyone else?
Good morning. My name is Dan Stacy, 90 Wall Street, Pawleys Island. Not here. I do represent HomeFed, and to clarify the question asked by the gentleman, a subsidiary of HomeFed absolutely owns this property, and there is part of the cleanup agreement with the Air Force, a prohibition on subdivision that is currently in place. To clarify those 2 things. I wanted to bring council a couple of updates since we last met.
Hold on 1 second, Dan. Can you all not hear him? Okay, if you could please.
I'll step closer to the microphone. Is that better?
I'm going to ask you to start over.
So, my name is Dan Stacy. I represent HomeFed. HomeFed, a subsidiary of HomeFed, absolutely owns this property. And currently, with the agreement with the Air Force and our DHEC, former DHEC, now a different agency, there is an absolute prohibition on subdivision of that property that currently exists. I wanted to update council for a couple of items since we last met. With regard to the trail system, we have submitted a memorandum of understanding to your city administration for review for our agreement to contribute to the trail system, both the easements which we have agreed to grant and some financial or in-kind contribution. That has been favorably received thus far. We have a tweak or two, and Mr. Tucker can probably verify that if you need that. We got comments last meeting and even some today about rental properties and the maintenance of rental properties. I don't know a lot, but I think one of the best indicators of future performance is generally past performance. And I would argue that HomeFed has done an extraordinary job at maintaining its holdings at Market Commons. I don't think you have anything else like it. Even Mr. Lindsay's letter about Rosemary Beach, about how well it's kept. I don't think anyone can argue that HomeFed is not keeping Market Common in top first-class condition. And since they will own and operate this, I think it is safe to assume that they will not let it deteriorate. With respect to traffic and parking, we vetted that thoroughly with your planning commission. We've shown you empirically and objectively through 3 different traffic studies and 2 different parking analyses that this parking is very adequate. It far and away exceeds your own ordinance. With regard to rushing, this property has been zoned for a hotel application, or a portion of it, I think Kelly can confirm, a portion was zoned as a hotel application for 7 years. If there was a hue and a cry for a hotel to be here, it would be here. Mr. Lindsay's own words now is it won't make any money, which is probably indicative of why a hotelier has not chosen to take this property and try to make it such. With regard to, again, to rushing, we've been at this plan for 2 years. So I respectfully suggest this is not a rushed plan. We've had meetings with the community. We've met with 6 of the different associations at the leadership level. We've been approved twice by CAB, twice by Planning Commission, both unanimous. I think we've answered all of the technical questions that you have, and this is the very last piece. And you guys, in partnership with Colonel Stiers and the Redevelopment Authority, have done a magnificent job at redeveloping this base through some tough economic cycles and being patient and waiting, and this is our last piece of the puzzle, and we respectfully request approval so we can finish. If you have any questions, I've got the whole team here. If you have questions about the former hotel transaction, we can answer those. I've got design folks, engineering folks, and we'll be glad to give you any other information that you need. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stacy.
In the original plans for a hotel, how many doors was there supposed to be, or potential?
I believe it was set aside, and Mr. Penner may be able to, 110.
110?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Since Dan just spoke, I want to just do a quick review before we ask for more public comment of some of the things that you all brought forward that have been answered. I want to make sure that they've been answered thoroughly for you, and if you need more clarification, we can give you that. We'll hear more information on the hotel. You just heard that the hotel would not make money. We are going to talk about that in a little more detail. We have heard the answer of who owns the property. We've talked about the traffic. The maintenance of the property has been addressed. HomeFed will maintain the property. We've answered the question about subdivision. As to there being no representative living in Market Common or representing that area, under our form of government, every single person up here represents Market Common. And we do that. We represent our entire city fairly and justly, and we do it for the greater good. So I do want you to know that. We take that very, very seriously. Council, there was a comment made about council not listening. We are listening. We're here to listen to you today. We listened to you 2 weeks ago, and we'll continue to listen to you. We've received your emails. At the last council meeting, I even took a breakdown of all of your concerns from those emails, and we addressed those. So we do want to listen to you. We are listening to you, and we are doing our best to answer your questions and your concerns. As far as the master plan and the rushing of this development, this master plan has been in place for how many years, buddy? Since 1997, and this particular development has been going on for years. And we have been working with HomeFed for at least the last 2 years that I know of to try to come to a plan that is agreeable to the community and will work for them financially. As Mr. Smith pointed out, this is private property. This is not the city's property. If it were our property, maybe we would do something different with it, but that's not up to us. I'm going to ask Mr. Penner to come forward, and I think it's only fair because we do have 2 new council members and for all of you who are here to talk with us about the original plans for the hotel and future plans for other hotels. Take us back to the beginning of your planning for this site, and how did you come to where you are today, please?
Good morning, Mayor, City Council members. My name is Bob Penner. I'm with HomeFed. I've been with HomeFed for about 20 years, and HomeFed has owned the Market Common since 2014. Early on in its development, when it opened its doors in April of '08, not long after, there had been bonds floated, and I believe, as I understood, the city required HomeFed to convert a portion of the 195 apartments that sit above the retail to short-term to be able to help, make sure that bond service was, taking place. Then fast forward to 2014 when we acquired it. It was not long, I think it was that first fall or winter, I had been approached by the people that were managing it on our behalf that we needed to lower our rates to be able to be competitive with those units on the ocean. And at that time, they were asking us to lower the rates to around $30 a night. And we couldn't even turn a unit for that. So it already at that point, it wasn't viable to be able to have, a hotel, because in essence, we were, had a hotel in a different form already on site. So, but what we also saw though is the Market Common was one of those spots that was, build it and they will come, because it was one of the first things that really was created there on the Air Force Base. And a lot of the residents you see there today were not there to be able to shop, live, eat, dine there on at our facility. So we were very excited about the opportunity to potentially put in a hotel, and had contracted a broker who then we'd gone into an agreement with them, and that agreement had been passed on to Buddy Lindsay. Again, as Buddy and others have talked about, it wasn't really particularly viable in and of itself, but for Buddy, at that time, he had a Hampton Inn and Suites on the ocean, and the idea was to be able to link the two through a shuttle, provide beach access and other things like that. A great plan. And, we spent quite a couple years working on that. We had a public meeting that, garnered, public comments on it. Originally, we were trying to put it in place on R6, the neighborhood next to Valor Park. There were complaints because of the townhouses that already existed there. So we listened. We moved it to this XYZ parcel on the corner of Phyllis and Farrell. It was a great location for us. And what we saw from the time that we had those short-term units in our facility and was that extra dining and shopping experience that people, when they stay for just a night or two, they really, go out to eat more often than what someone that's there long-term. So we were very excited about this opportunity to have it there. But in reality, Buddy struggled with it for a number of years. Wells, the reason that Buddy stated for the hotel not working is not how I recall and not how I believe it to actually be. There are wells on there from, the groundwater contamination there, but DHEC and others, EPA, were going to be able to allow us to move those around. So I don't believe that was an issue at all. The reality is the economics just didn't work. At the same time, Buddy had also leased office space from us. That, all in conjunction as he was going to try and do a lot of different things at Market Common. It did not work out. In 2018, we had a termination with him. It was an early termination, and you can read in between the lines how you would like on that. It is not something that worked out the way any of us planned, and we really aren't looking to do a facility with him at this point either. We had then after that in 2020 we had another hoteler that came into the purview through the same broker that had originally brought in Mr. Lindsay, and that too, we had city council. We had a meeting with the city manager and others in February of 20, and we all know what happened in March of 20. Everything collapsed. The hoteler went away, and at that point in time, we determined that we needed a different path because trying for 7 years to make a hotel work there just was too long, and it wasn't showing any fruit. So we are where we are today. As we heard, there needs to be one common ownership for that parcel, and that doesn't really accommodate single-family, individually owned units. So when I had been at SCD, I think it was back in 2016 or 17, they had said, the one exception would be is if there was common ownership, and that would, allow residential to go in place. So that's kind of how and what led us to this point in time. And the community that we have planned, we're very excited about it. We think it'll bring more people in close. It's aptly named, we believe, Market Walk, and it should be a short walk to the retail center, and we hope to continue to add more people shopping, dining, and enjoying the Market Common District. Anyway, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Penner? Yes, ma'am, you please come forward.
Hi, my name is Barbara Fahey. I live at 1925 Francis Court on Thunderbolt Park, right across from DC Blocks. They're my new neighbors, and they're good neighbors. We're all neighbors, and we all live together and work together. Forget what our titles are. I was a teacher here for Horry County Public Schools for children with special needs. So if I talk slow or I've talked down to you, if I clap and laugh, it's because the way I've been doing all my life. The one question I have for HomeFed, and I love Market Common. I enjoy living here. I love living on the trails. I love your new kayak thing there that you built. It's really good. We're progressing. We're doing good. It's beautiful. But I'm concerned. I'm very concerned because we're neighbors. We're people. We're individuals. We're each one. We all know each other. We see each other in the grocery store. I don't see too many people from HomeFed in my grocery store, so I don't know. So instead of saying, why not build, I want to know, why should they build? How is HomeFed going to benefit me and my neighbors, all the HOAs? What good will it bring to us to build on that property? I know it's their private property, and they can do what they want. Like, I don't want my neighbor to have a rooster. But the point is, I want to know what my neighbor's going to bring to me, what they're going to bring forth. And I don't want something that they're going to bribe me with or they're going to give me a Starbucks. I want to know, how are they going to be a good neighbor to me? DC Blocks is not a bad neighbor. I don't see them, I don't know them, but we can go to the foreman there and say, what are you doing now? And they're building great big towers and they're bringing in power, but they talk to us and they explain it. So I'm begging and pleading. I want to know, what good would this Market Walk bring to my neighborhood? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, I think in short, more neighbors, more families, more people. Renters are no different than any of the rest of us that own a home. It's just a different form of living, right? And also, what it also brings, though, is more people to shop and dine and create that vibrant retail center that we've all loved and so many have benefited from, that live close. We need more people shopping and dining there to be able to keep it viable, to bring in more new tenants, to keep it, we've been blessed and worked very, very hard. Heather and team, have done a phenomenal job keeping our occupancy at 94% today. But, you know, we're trying to keep it, we'd love to get it to 100%. And we love to have, you know, as tenants change, you know, be able to bring in and attract national brands and others, you know, as well. But that's what it takes. It takes more people shopping and dining.
Thank you. And we'll take 2 more comments, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Bruce Fahey, 1925 Francis Court. You heard from my lovely wife just a few minutes ago. One thing that was brought up in all of these discussions, the test wells. The land is toxic, and they were going to move a few of the wells for a hotel, but it didn't work out. I want to know what happens when you dig up 16 acres of land down to 10 feet to do all your plumbing and everything that has to be done. What is going to come out of the ground? And if there's families there in the future and they get ill, do they have the right to sue the city because they got ill and they were put on land that was toxic? That's my question. Where do we stand on the toxicity? They're still testing these wells every several months. Where do we stand on that? We haven't heard any report on that, and I'd like to. Thank you.
Thank you. Who would like to address that? I was hoping we would hear from Colonel Stiers today.
Yeah, I think that's something we addressed at the last meeting.
We did, and I'm happy to address it again.
Yes, there are wells out there. The Air Force identified them when the base was closed. In coordination with EPA, DHEC, and the Air Force, they are now monitoring wells for the contaminant is there. All of the contaminants are being allowed to mitigate naturally. And so the Air Force, he's right, the Air Force quarterly monitors those wells. They have a company that does that. By law, by federal law, if those wells become a problem or if they become a problem in part of the construction, the Air Force is responsible for continuing to do the cleanup. It's that simple.
So it is on the Air Force to make sure that everything is mitigated and cleaned properly.
And Bob has to cooperate with DHEC, the new DHEC, EPA, and the Air Force. They have to get Air Force approval for the kind of things they do.
And, Buddy, if DHEC or the EPA or the Air Force said this property was not suitable for residential housing, then we couldn't build residential housing on this property. Is that correct?
That's correct. And all of that land, even though there are wells and there is a mitigation process in place, the land was still found suitable for transfer from the Air Force to the Redevelopment Authority and ultimately to Home Fed.
So the experts at the EPA, DHEC, and the Air Force have all said it's okay to build housing there?
Yes. There are restrictions and they have to get the Air Force approval, but they do that.
Thank you.
Colonel, the land where the wells are, that's county land, is it not?
Bob, it is all on your land. There are wells in the 6 acres that the Redevelopment Authority gave to the county, but how about your land?
Yes, there are wells all throughout the property, and they continue to be sampled and will be in, as I understand it, in perpetuity.
So, but it's not just confined to county land. It's the entire tract.
Correct, but just because there's a well there doesn't mean there's contamination.
No, I understand. I was just trying to understand, are they in one location or in multiple locations?
No, they're randomly spread out throughout.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comment?
I'd like to make one comment more, if I may.
Yes, sir.
This is a personal comment. I think it's disgusting. The gentleman says all people that rent are not worthy of living in Myrtle Beach. Seagate Village has many renters, 192 renters above the market common, And I'm sure in the rest of the homeowners areas out there, there are other renters out there too. And those city people, even young people rent, and they're good citizens, and it's just not appropriate to classify them as less than human, if you will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Couple of questions for Mr. Penner. First on his timeline. He sort of stopped at 2020. Well, I think everybody realizes that 2020 was an extreme economic anomaly because of COVID, and what might have not worked then might possibly work now. Another question is, has HomeFed looked at doing a multi-use project, something that's more in line with the original market common vision? This is not a question of renters versus owners. I think we probably all at some point in our lives, for different reasons, rented apartments and properties. But what this is a question of is staying to the dream and the vision of market common. And it's a big project. It's a long timeline. So this need to, and I'll use the word rush, I know it offends some of my friends over on the other side there, but we are down to the last parcel. This is the last piece of the puzzle to complete that vision of market common. Perhaps a multi-use project with a combination of rental units, maybe a government building, medical, some commercial, possibly a small hotel. Maybe it doesn't work economically. But that fits in with the live, work, play environment, the new urbanist concept that Colonel Stiers, I've never met him, I've heard a lot about him, and the tremendous part of his life that he's given to make this happen. But to complete the puzzle, just to complete it, can cause more problems. Again, I've worked with a lot of developers, and I've seen many times that the problems they create fall on your shoulders to solve down the road. One more last comment, Councilman Smith. You made a point to say or ask that it was private property. I'm kind of a little confused about the relevance of that, because the purpose of government is to put the parameters around what people can do with private property. Just because I own something doesn't mean I can do whatever I want. That's why we have elected representatives. That's why we have zoning. That's why we have a planning commission, to sort of take the desires of property owners and meld them into the desires of the community and the vision that we have.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the reason I asked if it was private property is because I believe that some people felt that HomeFed was developing the city of Myrtle Beach's property. And you mentioned the Planning Commission, the Community Appearance Board, Council. This has gone through the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission voted unanimously to support it. You mentioned that the city kind of backstops what you're allowed to do. And yeah, and that's zoning. This is allowed within the zoning. It's not allowed within the master plan currently, but it's allowed within the underlying zoning. And the Myrtle Beach Regional, or the Air Force Base Redevelopment Authority approved this plan. The Planning Commission approved this plan. Apparently the CAB has approved this plan. And I am going to vote to approve this plan. It's not that I'm not listening to you. It's not that I don't understand your concerns. It's that I believe that property owners have the right to do what they want with their land within the reasonable expectations of development.
If I may, just in response.
Sure.
You are the ultimate backstop here, because HomeFed is asking you to change the master plan. I would agree with you wholeheartedly if it wasn't for that one critical fact. You have the lock on the gate, so to speak. They are asking for you to change that master plan to accommodate their version or their vision of completing this project, which again is not always in the best interest of the community. It's in the best interest of the developer. And I understand part of your job is to balance a vibrant, growing economic base with the interest of the community. So that's why I bring that up. If they weren't asking for that major change that you control, it would probably be a different discussion we're having.
Colonel Stiers.
Thank you, sir.
Could you speak to us about, Colonel Stiers, changes to the master plan along the way? And has that occurred before?
Well, I appreciate his comments about what an urban village is supposed to be, and he's absolutely right. Live, work, play, and the whole success of an urban village is people living nearby that can participate and shop and play and enjoy life. As a matter of fact, the Downtown Alliance, part of their plan says what? They're going to increase people living in the area. I see Jason Green back there, and I've heard him say that. But it's the same situation out there. If you didn't have those people living there, you wouldn't have a market common. And if it wasn't for the market common, all these homes out there probably wouldn't be there, or something else would be there. And over time, we started in 1995, and we purchased the property that is now what we're talking about in the fall of 1997. It's taken us almost 30 years to get to this point where we're down to the last piece. And the more people and the more residents in that area that can shop and use and pay taxes and have jobs here in Myrtle Beach and have, heaven forbid, rental homes to live in, that's what's important right now. And to insinuate that we haven't spent enough time doing it is just not true. We got 30 years invested with all councils and the redevelopment authority.
Can you speak to the adjustments in the master plan along the way?
We started out, as I think I told you once before, nobody knew what an urban village was. Your city planning director did, and he pushed us to do it. But the point is, over time, cultural change, economy changes, land use have to be adjusted to meet the needs of the community. And those things force change. Every development, I think one of them mentioned the fact that it does have to, if you can't put it in place in 1995 and in 2024, think you're still going to be doing the same thing. You just cannot. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Buddy. All right, we have had council comment and questions as well as yours. We are going to bring this to a vote. Again, I'm going to ask for a show of hands with this vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. And again, we truly appreciate you all for being here and for voicing your concerns and your questions to us. Let's take a 5-minute recess, please. Or 10, whatever you need. Mics aren't hot. There we go.
Mike left. He had to get ready for Taste of the Town.
Okay.
All right, our next agenda item is the second reading of ordinance 2024-61.
I'm going to recuse myself again for 2024-61 and 62 because my wife works for the property owner.
Okay, thank you.
Second reading of ordinance 2024-61 to annex 9.41 acres at the corner of 29th Avenue North and Robert Grissom Parkway, PIN number 42407010008, 42402030194, 42402030195, and 42402040131, and to rezone the property from Horry County RC Resort Commercial to Myrtle Beach HC1 Highway Commercial.
It was a great overview. Be no changes since first reading. Be glad to answer any questions.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Mr. Louder and a second from Ms. Hatley. Any questions or discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Second reading of ordinance 2024-62.
Second reading of ordinance 2024-62 to annex 3.76 acres off of 21st Avenue North, PIN number 42503030002, into the Myrtle Beach city limits, and to rezone the property from Horry County AC Amusement Commercial to Myrtle Beach LM Light Manufacturing.
No changes since first reading. Be glad to discuss or answer any questions.
Okay, is there a motion?
Second.
From Mr. Louder, second from Ms. Hatley. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you, Ken. Second reading of ordinance 2024-64.
Second reading of ordinance 2024-64 to amend a lease denominated as the agreement of lease between the City of Myrtle Beach and County of Horry as landlords and the Durham Bulls Baseball Club Incorporated as tenant, dated as of September 1st, 1998, deleting unnecessary terms reflecting the true parties and interest and providing for the extension of lease for 1 year.
As we said, there's been no changes since first reading. This will allow the Pelicans to continue to play in the 2025 season. The lease is just for the 2025 season and doesn't commit the city or the county to any other improvements whatsoever to the stadium.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Smith, second from Mrs. Hatley. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Motion 2024-87.
Motion 2024-87 to allocate up to $1,500,000 of hospitality tax revenue to fund improvements at the Whispering Pines Golf Course.
Chip is walking up. As you recall, back in, I think it was early September, Chip laid out a vision of improvements that needed to be done at the golf course with greens and irrigation and parking lot and signage. And this is $1.5 million in cash from the hospitality tax fund to address those needs. I think Chip's here to kind of lay out a time frame and answer any questions that you may have on the project.
Motion to approve.
Okay, let's,
Second.
I want to get a motion on the table first. Motion made from Mr. Louder, second from Mr. McClure. Any discussion from council before we listen to Mr. Smith? Okay, Chip, go ahead.
All right, I know we did this a few weeks back at a workshop, and Councilman Chestnut was not here, so I was, going to brief him. That's changed a little bit now.
We'll fill him in for you.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
But I did talk to Councilman Chestnut before he left, and he supports this. So.
Okay, so just kind of a timeline, as Mr. Simon said, is we've got plans to, the major project is renovating the greens, which is a grow-in period during the summer. But leading into that, we will start in November, December time period with replacing the pump station, which is our irrigation source. And then we'll follow that up with replacing all the irrigation heads on the golf course. Doing that during the winter months when we don't really run the irrigation very much will allow that downtime to happen without affecting any turf. And it will also get us in really good shape leading into the summer months when we do the grow-in. So the timeline kind of is pump stations, irrigation during the winter months, some shade issues that we'll take care of with some tree removal then. The summertime, we'll spend the time redoing the greens, renovating some bunkers, and then finally by August, before we open in September, the parking lot will be resurfaced. So quite a bit of work done for a small amount of money, to be honest with you, and we're pleased. We've I know Councilman McClure asked about the dollars before. Since our last meeting, we've got all our bids in, and we're in really good shape to do that, and feel like we even have some reserve funds there to look at some other issues as we move forward. But yeah, all our pricing is in, and we're in great shape to make this happen.
I appreciate you letting us know that too. And again, the amount of work that you're going to achieve, and I know $1.5 million sounds like a lot of money, but for what they're going to achieve, it's a bargain.
Yeah, and that's what we do. We just completed a golf course in Claremont, Florida. We started on this project in July 1 of 2023, and it was a golf course that had not been opened in 3 years. There was watermelons growing in one of the fairways. I mean, it was really
Which course, Chip? My parents lived in Claremont.
So it used to be called Sanctuary Ridge. It's now Claremont National. So we took over that after 3 years and kind of deemed it an 18-month project. We started July 1 last year. We opened it back up November 17th. So in 5 months, we did that 18-month project, and it's been thriving for almost a year now. So we know how to make it happen pretty quick and do it pretty efficiently.
Chip, it would really help some of us in this room if you expanded the greens, funneled the greens towards the hole.
Right.
Make the holes bigger.
And got rid of the bunker.
Big.
Make the hole
Canyon
bigger.
fairways
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and larger greens. Yeah.
Widen the fairways too.
Yeah, I would find a way to miss it somehow. So
That way Mr. Tucker
Move
could
the
sink a
red
3-foot
T
putt.
markers up a bit, too.
yeah, right.
All right, this is turning personal. Any other questions for Mr. Smith?
Well, thank you for your support on all this, and we look forward to making this happen and having something the city can be proud of.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any discussion from the public? All right, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Motion 2024-88.
Motion 2024-88 to reappoint one member to the Convention Center Hotel Board of Directors.
Okay, there is currently one open seat due to a resignation. The chairman and board recommends that Dr. Jessica Green, who is a city resident, fills this vacancy. This term expires. The term's expiration date remains to be July 25th, 2025. Is there a motion to appoint?
I make a motion to appoint Dr. Jessica Green to the Convention Center Hotel Board.
Okay. Motion made by Dr. Connor, second from Mr. Louder. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Do we have any non-agenda items from the public?
No, Your Honor.
All righty. Any communications from council or management?
Taste of the Town is tonight.
Taste of the Town is tonight. We also have the groundbreaking ceremony for the Family Justice Center tomorrow. And with October also being Domestic Violence Awareness Month, that's a very big deal for our entire county and area, so exciting thing to come.
One thing, coming up is Halloween, and there'll be a lot of families, a lot of kids out trick-or-treating, and it's a very fun time for those young folks, and I would just ask that everybody in our communities be especially careful when you're driving. Because some of these kids, they're out a little bit later than just daylight, and so let's just be especially watchful for these young folks that they're out there having a big time collecting candy or whatever it is they'll receive. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion made from Mr. Louder, second from Ms. Hatley. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries and meeting is adjourned.